Hey mamas, if you're listening while the rest of the world sleeps or does other things and your arms are full, you're in the right place. Tonight we're giving ourselves permission to take the time it takes. We'll talk about that tonight on Midlight. I've been thinking lately about us taking the time it takes to do the things that we need to do and not feeling behind or rushed or like we're just watching the clock for something to pass, but that we would just truly enjoy and soak up the time that it takes to do something. I've been thinking about you mamas and getting up in the middle of the night and how it can feel heavy. And I was thinking about what if we viewed it as an invitation to spend time in the quiet with our babies? And what if we viewed it as a time to spend in the quiet with Jesus and just rest in his presence as we take care of our babies? And I've been thinking about what unhurried faithfulness would look like. What if we just did the things we needed to do and didn't feel so hairy while we were doing it or trying to get to the next thing? Because as a mom of 9, I get it. I know what it's like to feel hurried and like you're trying to catch up or you're already behind before you start. And I just wanted to encourage you tonight to take the time it takes, mama. If it takes 20 minutes to feed the baby, if it takes an hour to feed the baby, whatever the time is, it is. So you might as well soak up the moments and enjoy it. Fill them with faithfulness and a heart that's willing to serve your family and the Lord and that baby, and not get so concerned about what you're missing, whether it's sleep or cleaning or spending time with someone else, but just soaking up and soaking into this moment with your little one, whatever that looks like, whether it's nursing or sitting on the ground playing or bottle feeding or just rocking and allowing them to have your presence as a mama. And I wanted to encourage you tonight that those things are extremely important. Even if the world would tell you to be busy in other ways, those very things are productive and helpful and valuable. And it's interesting because we pay other people pretty well to do that for our children. We would expect someone, if we left our babies with them, to take excellent care of them and sit with them and play with them and give them our attention. But sometimes as mamas, we're just so pulled in so many ways that we feel this guilt if we just sit down and enjoy that baby. But you know what, mama? You are doing exactly what you are called to do when you spend time with your little one. So just know that it's not in vain. That time, it is just not in vain. Because I know that in society today, they offer a lot of ways to be optimized, like quick feeds and productivity hacks, sleep when the baby sleeps, all sorts of commands instead of grace. But real nurturing, physical, emotional, spiritual, it often takes the time that it takes. Because let's think about it. Nursing or bottle feeding isn't just calories, it's connection. Rocking isn't just settling, it's your presence. Pondering things in your heart like Mary did in Luke chapter 2 and verse 19, it isn't a waste in those moments, mama. It's actually holy. I understand that middle of the night feedings can feel like an interruption, but what if it was just an invitation to breathe and pray and release the death grip on the to-do list? Taking the time that it takes is an act of trust in God, and God isn't rushed, and he meets us right in the unhurried middle of our motherhood. And I am so thankful for that. So tonight I'm going to share with you a couple of verses that might anchor us tonight in our understanding of time and taking the time that it takes as mamas. And I want to start with Ecclesiastes chapter 3 in verse 1. And it says, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." And then it goes on to say, "A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And then if you skip down to verse 11, it says, He has made everything beautiful in its time. So tonight, mamas, I just read that all to you from Ecclesiastes in chapter 3 because I think it's good to remember that we are serving a God and loved by a God who values these things in terms of taking the time that it takes and that there are times for everything. And right now you are in a season where your job is to take care of a little one, or maybe more than one little one, and none of it is wasted. So I wanted to remind you of that tonight. And another idea with this would be reframing the idea of taking the time as a holy rhythm, not delay. Rest as obedience and presence with your baby as worship for the Lord, like Colossians 3:23 says when he says, do everything unto the Lord, not for man. So remember that when you are taking care of these things and it feels like you're taking too much time or you should be doing something else, just remember, Mama, that you are doing a holy work. And here is sort of a permission slip. It's okay if it takes longer than you thought. This is the work. Whether it's nursing, feeding a bottle, folding the laundry, helping a child, try not to rush to the next thing, but to soak up the time right now that you're in. So mamas, I'm here with you in these trenches and I know what it's like. And I just want to remind you to slow down and remember that taking the time it takes is an act of faithfulness. And I would encourage you tonight to ask yourself this: what's one thing you're giving yourself permission to take the time for? And tonight, mamas, I want to leave you with a blessing from Numbers 6:24 through 26. May the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face to shine upon you, be gracious unto you, and give you peace. Amen. Until next time, mamas, remember to slow down, soak up the moments, and take the time it takes. Until next time, mamas, take care, and we'll talk again soon.